The Supreme Court killed Trump's tariffs, but here's the catch. What the IEEPA actually means for Canadian manufacturers and why Section 232 still hurts us. So I'm Jack Jackson. This is Manufacturers Daily. Let's get into it. So for most of you know that we hear on the news, back in February, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a ruling that made headlines. Said 6-3 decision. The President of the United States does not have the authority to impose tariffs using the IEEPA, which is the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So for a brief moment, we all thought the tariff war was over. What actually happened here is a little bit different. So what the court actually ruled, the case was called the Learning Resources versus Trump. A group of U.S. importers, small business of buying educational toys, sued the Trump administration over the tariffs that have been imposed under this law, IEEPA, and Trump used IEEPA in two big ways. First was to impose the so-called trafficking tariffs in February on Canada, Mexico, and China, citing illegal drugs and immigration as a national emergency. Second, he decided to impose reciprocal tariffs in April, targeting countries with trade surpluses against the U.S. The court said clearly that this does not give the president the power to impose these tariffs. Tariffs are taxes, and the Constitution gives taxing power to Congress. You can't just declare an emergency and start taxing import, is what they did. So 4 days later, on February 24th, 2026, the border stopped collecting the tariffs. Well, within hours, Trump was on his Truth Social, and he put new tariffs in. Section 122, which was from the Trade Act of 1974, allows the president to impose a temporary import surcharge of up to 15% for 150 days. So he decided to make it 10% instead of 15%, and we have until July 24th, 2026 to see what happens there, if that ends or not. Basically, Canada, we're exempt from that one. We have CUSMA. Nothing really goes through there. Where we're getting hammered right now is on tariffs 232, which is aluminum, steel, and all the different derivatives that are taken from that. I explained in another video. So let's go back to the refunds, because we can get off track here very easily. So here's what's interesting for some manufacturers, because if you paid the IEEPA tariffs between February 25 and February 26 on the products that qualified under CUSMA, you can be entitled to refund. CUSMA qualifying goods are actually exempt from the IEEP trafficking tariffs all along, but everyone filed their documentation correctly at the time of entry, and some entries were processed and got the rate anyways. So government's indicated that it will process refunds. As I talked about in another video, FedEx and UPS and DHL are already on this and working on it. It's all the other items that you did with common carrier or direct shipments that you have to work on yourself. So the government has indicated it will issue refunds, but the mechanics of how processes work is not fully announced still, and the court left that question to the lower courts. So we'll have to dig into this more as we're getting into this with more clients. So the window is unlimited. You don't have to wait, to start processing this now and get all your invoices in order. And we can help you do that. So Section 122 tariffs have a 150-day clock. That was a 10%. So that expires July 24th, 2026. Not to get confused with Section 232 that never closes. It stays there until the president decides he wants to close it. So, yeah, that's the one that is the most. That's the one that's the most damaging right now in the whole tariff world. That I don't think people understand, especially the changes that happened on April 6th, where it went from. For example, if you had a table that the aluminum was only 25% of the total weight or value, you paid the tariff on just that part versus April 6th, it changed to what's the whole total value of the table. So long story, don't want to get into it all here. We can help you. Every one of you are individuals. Give us a call. We can work you through it. So I'm Jack Jackson, Manufacturers Daily. Thanks for listening. Look for us again the next time on the next video.